A homeless boy fed a stray dog in front of a wealthy man's house. Rs later, that dog barked wildly at the courthouse entrance. At 6 in the morning, the sky in Nairobi was just turning pale gray, but the high court was already packed. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and something tense, something unspoken. Today was the final verdict in the Matari land case. The crowd moved like they were pulled by an invisible rope, slowly pressing Tawa RD the heavy bronze doors. Lawyers in robes, Maasai elders in headscarves, journalists with cameras, and farmers who'd lost their land, all their faces showed 30 years of exhaustion and hope. The morning sun slanted across the court's cracked stone pillars, casting deep shadows, as if the building itself was buckling under history's weight. Then woof! 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 A wild, desperate howl tore through the quiet morning. Everyone spun around. At the foot of the courthouse steps stood a skinny, gray-haired old dog, its body tense like a drawn bow, its red eyes locked onto Mr. K.A. Russia, the real estate tycoon in his tailored suit, hair slicked back. The dog SNA led, its growl low and guttural, like it was holding back TRS. Whose stray is this? Get rid of it, the judge snapped over the loudspeaker. Two officers moved in with batons. But when they got close, the dog didn't back down. It lunged, clamping its jaws onto one officer's pant leg and refusing to let go. The other swung his baton, but the dog dodged and lunged again. Tawa RDKA Russia, still BA king, its voice full of something between fury and grief. Chaos erupted. Cameras flashed. The crowd buzzed. That dog knows him. It's accusing him, someone whispered. Then, from the back of the crowd, a young man stepped four-way road. He was in his EARLY 20s, his clothes worn thin, his sandals cracked, but his eyes were sharp, like an eagle's. He raised a hand and called softly in Swahili, "Tupo, come." A miracle happened. The raging dog instantly calmed. Its tail wagged weakly as it trotted back to the young man, nuzzling his leg. The young man looked straight at K.A. Russia. "Do you remember the boy who fed the dogs outside your gate 15 years ago?" K.A. Russia's face went pale. 15 years liar, on a stormy night? The Matari slum was like a sleeping beast, its tin roofs rattling under the downpour. Sewage and trash swirled in the muddy streets. A skinny 80-year-old boy, a Betty, shivered in his CA or Boe road box outside the high walls of the rich neighborhood. His parents had died in border clashes, and he'd been on his own for 2 years. Clutched in his RMS was a plastic bag with half a moldy loaf of bread, his dinner, dug out of 3 different trash bins. His stomach burned with hunger, but he hadn't taken a bite yet. Narby, a tiny puppy, ribs showing, one ear torn, struggled in the rain. It tried crawling Tawa RD a Betty but kept slipping. A Betty hesitated. Then, ruefully, he broke off the smallest piece of bread and pushed it Tawa RD the puppy. The puppy sniffed, then devoured it. When it finished, it looked up at a Betty with wet eyes and licked his frostbitten fingers. A Betty smiled. For the first time in years, someone had thanked him. Behind the wall, music and laughter floated from a pool party. On one side, champagne and grilled meat. On the other, hunger and rain. That night, a Betty named the puppy Tupo, Swahili for protector. He didn't know that name would echo across the country 15 years later. Back at the courthouse, K.A. Russia's hands trembled. Of course he remembered that night. Back then, he was young, fresh off his first fortune from illegal timber deals, building mansions in the rich suburbs. His security had reported a stray dog lurking in his wall, always with some homeless boy. Filth. Get rid of it, he'd said without looking up. Later, the dog howled at his study window every night, even tried biting through the CA or pet. He got annoyed. Break its legs. Dump it FAROA. As for the boy, he couldn't even remember his face. But now, that boy stood before him with the dog that should have died in a ditch. Your Honor. K.A. Russia forced a calm tone. This is a deliberate disruption. A mad dog and a beg AR can't interfere with national justice. Your Honor, a Betty stepped four-way RD, voice steady. I'm not a beg AR. I'm a child of Matari, a son of Ngong Hills. And Tupo isn't mad, he's a witness. A witness, the judge scoffed. Animals can't testify. He remembers, a Betty said quietly. He remembers the rainy night 15 years ago. Who fed him bread? Who ordered his kind killed? Who buried land deeds under cement? The crowd erupted. Nana, the young reporter, who'd been chasing this story for years, gripped her recorder. She knew the truth was finally surfacing. Ka Rush's face twisted. He gla read at Tupo. The old dog sta read back, growling deep in its throat, like it was reciting a buried history. Get them out of here. Ka Russia roa read. The officers moved in again. A Betty held Tupo tighter, bracing for a fight. Then an elder Maasai man, white-haired, leaning on a wooden staff, stepped from the plaintiff's side. He raised a hand and began chanting in the old Maasai tongue. I'm kayang you inki shawoybor, earth God, hear the cries of the weak. Tupo lifted his head and let out a long, mournful howl, not like a bark, but like an ancient song, cutting through rain and time. The courtroom fell silent. The judge took a long breath. The plaintiff may proceed, but the dog must leave. A Betty stroked Tupo's head. Go, old friend. We'll wait for you. Tupo gave him one last look, then trotted to the shade of a tree outside, never taking his eyes off the courthouse doors. The trial began. Ka Rush's lawyer droned on about legal deeds, how the Maasai lacked modern property rights, how the land deals were perfectly valid. A Betty didn't speak. He just pulled out a wooden carbing, a cow's head symbol, and placed it on the witness stand. The judge frowned. What is this? A Betty met his gaze. The key to memory. When the dog barks, the truth comes back. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, lighting up the carbing and the old dog's gray fur under the tree. 15 years of storms. 30 years of lies. All crumbling with one dog's howl. A Betty remembered that the bread had blue mold, the spots spreading like borders on a map. He could have swallowed it whole, ending the 3-day riot in his stomach. But he didn't. He broke off the smallest piece and pushed it toward the shivering puppy in the rain. In that moment, he wasn't a beggar, he was a giver. And in Matari, that was a rare kind of dignity than a full belly. From that day on, Tupo became a Betty's only family. They dug through trash for plastic bottles to sell, hid under bridges from storms, and scrambled away when security chased them. Small as he was, Tupo was sharp, always growling a warning before cops showed up, leading a Betty into the maze of Matari's alleys. Life in the slum was a never-ending survival game. Kids got snatched by gangs, forced into theft or drug runs. A Betty scraped by, collecting scrap metal or running errands. He slept in abandoned shipping containers, leaky tin shacks, even on benches outside funeral homes. At least there, no one bothered him. He often scavenged the rich neighborhoods. Their trash held unopened milk cartons, whole bags of bread, even kids' clothes worn once and tossed out. Once, he found a box of children's books. He couldn't read English, but he took them back and used them as a pillow. The next day, he gave them to a blind old woman. Child, she said, knowledge is light even if you can't see it. That night, a Betty dreamed he could read, telling Tupo stories. But reality wasn't a fairy tale. One evening, while begging the market, an old Maasai man Sammy, a wandering craftsman, studied Tupo with cloudy eyes. This dog, Sammy rasped, isn't ordinary. A Betty tensed. He's just hungry. Sammy shook his head. Dogs remember. They remember who fed them, who beat them, who lied in the dark. They speak, you just don't hear it. A Betty looked down at Tupo, who nuzzled his hand like he understood. We Maasai say, Moto Amethikan Iambani, the fire has come home. Dogs are messengers from the ancestors, sent to Gwa the weak. The words stuck in a Betty's mind. Then, disaster struck. Ka Rush's men came to expand his mansion. They bulldozed shacks at the edge of Matari, including a Betty's Boe road shelter. A Gwa kicked over his begging bowl, coins rolling into the mud. Scram. This is private land. When a Betty tried to pick up the coins, the Gwa kicked him down. Tupo lunged, biting the Gwa leg. The man roa read, swinging a club a crack. Tupo yelped, flying into a sewage ditch. You little mutt. The Gwa raised the club again. A Betty threw himself over Tupo, taking the blows. Hit me, not him. The Gwa finally stopped, but not before snatching Tupo away. Strays like this are just trouble. With a cruel laugh, he hurled Tupo into the filthy water. A Betty crawled toward the ditch, screaming. Tupo thrashed in the murk, blood on his muzzle. But a Betty's back was broken with pain, he could only watch as the current swept his friend away. He sobbed in the mud. Not for himself, but for the moldy bread, for the lick of gratitude, for the one rmth in his life, crushed. Then, rough hands lifted him. Sammy. Without a word, the old man wrapped a Betty in a blanket and ride him out of Matahari. They hitched a ride on a rickety truck, bouncing all day until they reached a remote Maasai village at the foot of Ngang Hills. Sammy's hut smelled of herbs and dried meat. He treated a Betty's wounds with crushed acacia leaves. When the pain dulled, a Betty whispered, "Is Tupo dead?" Sammy gazed at the horizon. "Dogs have 9 lives. If he was meant to die, he wouldn't have saved you. If he's meant to live, he'll return." A Betty didn't believe it. But he had no choice. He stayed, learning to herd cattle, find edible roots, and listen to elders' stories. The Maasai saw land as sacred. Their cows were wealth and a bridge to the ancestors. At night, by the fire, elders sang of how colonists stole their pastures, then how new chiefs kept stealing after independence. "Land doesn't speak," one elder said. "But cattle remember. Dogs remember. Even the wind remembers." A Betty listened. He realized he hadn't just lost Tupo, he'd lost his people's memory. A year later, Sammy fell sick. On his deathbed, he clutched a wooden carving, a bull's head, the same one a Betty would later hold in court. "Child," Sammy wheezed, "if a white-furred old dog ever comes back to you, red, angry, full of memory, that's when the truth returns." A Betty wept. "Will he?" Sammy smiled. "Dogs don't count time. They remember hearts. The good, they follow forever. The wicked, they hunt to the ends of the earth." His hand went slack. The carving dropped. A Betty buried it under an acacia tree, vowing never to forget. 10 years passed. A Betty was a man now, strong and steady. He spoke Maasai fluently, knew the laws of the land, and understood who he was, not a Matahari stray, but a child of the earth. Then, one night, chaos erupted. Wild dogs attacked the cattle. As warriors drove them off, all white-furred. Elder Darut from the trees, herding the panicked herd to safety. Left are torn. Just like Tupo. The Maasai gasped. "The spirit dog of Ngang. It saved our cows." A Betty sprinted to the scene. Moonlight glinted in the old dog's milky eyes, but the spa RK was still there. Tupo the dog turned. Sniffed. Then a whimper. He lunged, licking a Betty's hands, tail whipping like it could wag away a decade of sepe ration. A Betty collapsed, hugging him. "You're alive, you're really alive." From Hunter's Tales, a Betty pieced together Tupo's legend. Thrown into the ditch, he'd been saved by a fisherman. After the man died, Tupo roamed the wild, rescuing kids from rivers, warning of snakes, even chasing off poachers. The Maasai called him, the mountain's guardian. He'd howl Tawa the city, one hunter said. Like he was waiting for someone. A Betty traced Tupo's scars, heart breaking. He knew whose men had put them there. Then, the village radio crackled. With news, TYCNKA Russia announces luxury eco-resort development on Ngang's southern slopes. A Betty froze. Ngang Hills, Maasai Holy Land, the heart of stolen territory. He looked down. Tupo was growling at the radio, claws digging into the dirt. Then a Betty remembered Sammy's carving. He dug it up under the acacia tree. The bull's head gleamed in the moonlight. Tupo sniffed it, then butted a Betty's hand and trotted north. Tawa rode the city. A Betty understood. Time to go back, Tupo, he said, gripping the carving. Time to return memory to the earth. The wind swept the plains as Tupo lifted his head and howled, not a goodbye. A war cried out. The grassland was so quiet you could hear dew sliding off acacia leaves. A Betty lay on the thatched roof, Tupo curled at his feet, breathing steady. After 10 years, that familiar weight was finally back. He ran his fingers through Tupo's graying fur, tracing deep scars left by concrete, clubs. And forgetting. Where did you go? A Betty whispered, knowing dogs don't understand words but needing to say them anyway. I looked for you, by every trash pile, behind every truck heading out of town. I thought you were dead like the cats crushed under wheels, like the dogs that drank poison water. Tupo's ears twitched. He didn't open his eyes, just nuzzled Betty's hand. As if to say, I lived. I came back. That's enough. At dawn, the Maasai elders called the village together. They held a welcome ceremony for the spirit dog, Tupo. A fire burned outside the huts. Men danced the adumu, leaping high to honor a warrior. Women painted Tupo's forehead with red ochre, chanting blessings. Oyeda eni English, oyeda eni Inkishu, Yubwa rd the cattle, Yubwa rd the land. Betty stood at the edge, throat tight. He'd never been treated with such respect. In Matari, street kids were nameless, people couldn't even get their names right. But here, a dog, for its kindness and loyalty, was honored like a messenger from the gods. After the ceremony, the chief offered Betty a cup of Wa-RM blood milk, the highest honor. Child, the elder said, Tupo saved our cattle. He saved your life. His return means you have unfinished work. Betty nodded and told him about Ka Russia's plan to develop Ngang Hills. The elder sta read at the distant ridges. That land holds our ancestors' bones. 30 years ago, a man named Ka Russia tricked us with a contract. Our chief was drunk when he signed. When he sobered up, he wept for 3 days, saying, I sold our ancestors' dreams. Is there proof? Betty asked. Yes? But it's hidden. The elder sighed. They burned the original deed, kept only a legal copy. We can't fight lawyers and judges. Betty clenched his fists. Then he remembered Sammy's wooden carving. He pulled it out. The elder gasped. The Guardians Mark. Only tribal chiefs Carry. This. Sammy gave it to you, he said. When Tupo returned, the truth would too. The elder touched the carving, eyes wet. Then the ancestors haven't abandoned us. Days later, Betty Preppa read to leave. He didn't want Tupo in danger again, but the old dog refused to stay. He dragged Betty's backpack over, pawed at his leg. I stubborn. You're old, Tupo, Betty said, stroking his head. The grassland is your home. Tupo just trotted Tawa RD the village gate, glancing back every few steps, just like the puppy who'd followed him in the rain. Betty laughed. All right, old friend. Let's go get justice. Before they left, the elder gave Betty herbs and a hand-drawn map. Go to the National Archives. Ask for Mwai, his father was Maasai. Rumor says he kept shadow files from that time. They hitched a ride on a cattle truck, bouncing back to Nairobi. The city was louder, taller, crueler than he remembered. Matari's tin shacks still baked. Under the sun. Betty rented a shack on the slum's edge. Tupo paced all night, sniffing the floor like he was tracking a ghost. On the third day, they found the archives, a cold, colonial-era building stacked with dusty files. Mwai, a nervous man with glasses, eyed them suspiciously. Maasai, what do you want? The original deed for Ngang Hills, the one Ka Russia's father signed 30 years ago. Mwai shook his head. Case closed. Files sealed. Then Betty showed the wooden carving. Mwai's face changed. You knew Sammy. He was my father. A pause. Then Mwai led them to a forgotten drawer, pulling out a yellow deed copy. Only one left. The original burned, conveniently, 3 days after signing. Betty's hands shook. The deed had Ka Russia's father's signature, a faded tribal stamp, and on the back, a rust-colored mark shaped like a dog's paw. What's this? Mwai shrugged. No one knows. Blood rust, but it's been there since the beginning, like a curse. Betty remembered Tupo used to bite at the Ca pets in Ka Russia's house. Had he smelled the truth suddenly? The lights flickered. Mwai tensed. Go! Gua RDS patrol hourly. Betty stuffed the deed in his shirt and ran. Back home, he studied the papers. Tupo went wild, scratching at a bookshelf. Behind it, freshly patched cement. Betty grabbed a hammer. The hollow spot crumbled, revealing a rusted tin box. Inside, a half a chai red original deed showing forced fingerprints. A small dog skeleton, skull crushed. A photo, young Ka Russia grinning, his foot on a dead dog. Behind him, his study window. Betty's blood turned to ice. That dog, Tupo's sibling, killed the same night they were separated. Tupo licked the bones, then howled a sound so raw it shook the walls. He tore at the floor like he wanted to dig up every buried sin. Betty held him, tears falling. They killed your brother, hid the proof under their house. Now he understood why Tupo had tried to chew through Ka Russia's pets. He remembered the blood. The betrayal. The stolen land. That night, as Betty lay awake, Tupo growled at the door. Shadows moved outside. 3 men. Metal glinted in their hands. Ka Russia's people. Betty grabbed the tin box, shoved it in his bag, and leaped out the back window with Tupo. They sprinted through Matari's maze, under fences, over ditches, until they ducked into an abandoned church. Panting, Betty checked the photo again. On the back, tiny writing. K, study. Basement. Key, under potted plant. Ka Russia's basement. What was down there? His pulse raced. This might be the last piece, but how to break into a Gua-Ride mansion? He looked at Tupo. The old dog met his gaze, calm, certain, like he was saying, I'll follow you to the end. Outside, Nairobi's lights glittered like stars far away. On young hills, Masai fires still burned, keeping memory alive. Betty gripped the wooden carving. Tupo, we have to go back to that door one last time. The old dog whined softly, tail giving a slow wag, just like that rainy night, 15 years ago, when he first licked Betty's hand. The pale light through the broken stained glass made the tin box look like it was covered in frost. Betty traced the tiny writing on the back of the photo. K, study. Basement. Key, under potted plant. Each word burned like a hot needle in his memory. Ka Russia's study, where Tupo had once torn at the pet, where the bones and lies were buried. We have to get in there, Betty muttered, more to himself than to Tupo. The old dog didn't answer, just nudged his hand with his nose, then turned toward the door. Ears pricked. The men hunting them had moved on, but danger still hung in the air. Betty knew a burnt deed and a dog's skeleton wouldn't be enough to bring down Ka Russia's empire. He needed the original documents, proof. The signatures were forced. And that basement might be the only place left to look. But he had no key. No way into the mansion. At dawn, he and Tupo slipped back to the archives. Why wasn't there yet, so they waited outside. Then a young woman on a rusty bike pulled up. Nana, the reporter, press badge swinging. You're Betty, she said bluntly. I tracked you last night. You're digging up proof on Ka Russia's land deals. Betty tensed. Who sent you? Nobody. She pulled out a recorder. I'm with East African Voice. 3 years now, I've been chasing Ka Russia's property scams. He's stolen land from 7 tribes, left thousands homeless. But no one dare residential speak, they're afraid. She looked at Tupo. But you're different. You've got a story. Evidence. And she smirked. A dog who testifies. After a pause, Betty nodded. He told her about the tin box. Nana's eyes lit up. A basement that's huge. If there's original deeds or ledgers down there, we could bury him. But we can't get in, Betty said. Nana grinned. Maybe we don't have to. She took them to a dingy electronics shop downtown. The owner, a friend of hers, salvaged old security are from rich neighborhoods. Nana dug out a tiny wireless camera ripped from Ka Russia's own Garden surveillance. This still works, she said, rewiring it. If we can plant it inside, we can see the basement remotely. How? Betty asked. Nana looked at Tupo. Send him in. Betty stiffened. Into the mansion. Too dangerous. He's the only living thing that can walk in and out freely, Nana said. The Gua-Rds might remember him. And dogs don't get frisked. Betty looked down. Tupo was already watching him, calm but firm. His tail gave a slow wag, just like when he licked Betty's hand over that moldy bread. You do this? Betty whispered. Tupo stood and nudged his leg. Yes. The plan was set. Nana sewed the camera into Tupo's collar. Betty sketched the mansion's layout from memory. He'd memorized it years ago while scavenging trash. Basements behind the study, Betty pointed. Hidden door under the pet. That's what Tupo tried digging up before. Nana nodded. Camera battery lasts 2 hours. He's got to find the basement, film the proof, and get out fast. That night, they hid in an alley behind the mansion. Floodlights swept the grounds. Gua RDS patrol. Remember, Betty whispered, adjusting Tupo's collar arch straight to the study. Find the door. Dig it open. Film. Then run. Tupo licked his palm once, then vanished into the shadows. Betty's heart pounded. Nana, watching from a van down the street, held her breath as the camera feed flickered to life. Tupo moved like a ghost, past the hedges, under the cameras, straight to the study window. Inside, K.A. Russia was yelling into his phone, haven't found that beg AR yet. T are the city APART. I want that dog's corpse. 2. Tupo's EARS flattened. But he didn't growl. He slipped around back, where a Gua RD recognized him. Damn mutt's still alive, the man grumbled, but let him pass. Inside, Tupo beelined for the study. The CA or pet was still there. He clawed at it until the hidden door creaked open, revealing stone steps. The camera rolled. Nana gasped. The basement was packed, file boxes, a safe, even illegal animal pelts. Find the deeds, she hissed. Tupo sniffed, then pulled a leather folder from a shelf. The label read, Masai Land Acquisition Original Deeds and Correspondence. Nana Nearly screamed. Then footsteps upstairs. K.A. Russia was coming. Tupo shoved the folder into view. The camera caught a drug tribal chief signing papers at gunpoint. Bank records of bribes, names blacked out, but amounts staggering. A torn page from K.A. Russia's father's diary, used dog blood to bless the land. Wealth over conscience. If caught, burn the proof. Seal the basement forever. Tupo turned to flee, but K.A. Russia threw open the door. Who's there? The dog ducked behind a shelf as K.A. Russia's flashlight swept the room. Thieves. K.A. Russia ROA read into his phone. Lock the gates. CRCH everywhere. Tupo bolted out the back, vanishing into the night. Betty caught him in the alley. The old dog was panting, collar torn, but triumphant. You did it. Betty hugged him, voice breaking. Nana's van screeched up. She replayed the footage. Deeds, bribes, the diary. This is enough, she whispered. This could put him away for 30 years. But Betty sta read at the mansion's glowing windows. Not yet. We still need the key. What key? The one in the photo, under the potted plant. The safe key. Without it, we don't have everything. Nana hesitated. Breaking in once was risky. Twice was suicide. Then Tupo growled, Sta ring tawa rd mata ria. Betty froze. You know where it is, he suddenly remembered. Before the mansion, K.A. Russia's family had an old house with a garden. A prized orchid pot. The Gua RDS used to say it was his father's lucky plant. And that house now a storage shed on the edge of Matari. Tupo, Betty gripped the wooden carving. One last trip. The night wind ruffled the old dog's fur, white as snow in the moonlight. He wasn't afraid. Some memories stay buried, under cement, under potted plants, waiting 30 years for a dog and the boy who once fed him bread to dig them up. Matari never really sleeps. The hum of generators, crying babies, drunk shouts, it's the slum's ragged breath. Betty and Tupo moved through the alleys like shadows. Nana waited in her van, whispering through a crackling radio, WA rehouses in B7. Night Gua RDs posted. BCA refill. B7 used to be KA Russia's old garden. Now, the colonial-style house was a storage shed, packed with imported liquor and construction supplies. Only one thing remained: the giant orchid pot, K.A. Russia's father's lucky charm, now rotting on a rusty rack like a forgotten offering. Key under the pot. Betty's pulse hammered. Tupo sniffed the ground. He remembered the smell: dirt, fertilizer, and something metallic, something old and afraid. Then his EARS twitched. A hunched figure crouched by the side door. Old Moshi, a begayer who used to be K.A. Russia's gardener. Betty crept closer. Moshi eyed him. Kid, you got a death wish? I need to know about the pot, Betty whispered. K.A. Russia's father's key. Moshi smirked. After 30 years, someone remembers he took a drag. Old man was superstitious. Said the key soaked up Earth's luck, kept his fortune safe. Buried it under the orchid roots, even chanted over it. Then he died suspiciously. He attack, but the doctor said his stomach a betty stiffened. What dunno? But that night Moshe nodded at the shed, I saw K.A. Russia come out with a metal box. Buried it in the back EA road. Next day, the orchid got moved to the front. A Betty and Tupo exchanged a glance, the back EARD. The deed box and the key might both be there, when's the Gua RD shift change, a Betty asked. 2 a.m. Soon. Moshe crushed his cigarette. Go on, boy. Some truths are worth dying for. At midnight, they slipped into the overgrown road Tupo beelined for a loose patch of dirt, digging furiously. A Betty helped with his knife. The soil gave way to another rusted box. Inside not deeds. A leather journal. K.A. Russia's senior SDRE. A Betty flipped through it. Pages detailed how K.A. Russia's father got the Maasai chief drunk, forged signatures, bribed officials. The last entry read, if my son is unworthy, wealth will crumble. If he hoa RDS riches, his ERT will rot. Only dog blood can silence the land's rage. Only this box can bury the truth. Key stays with the orchid, lock the fortune forever. Key's still in the pot. A Betty snapped the GRE shut, who's there? The Gua RD. A flashlight beam sliced through the arcade. A Betty grabbed the GRE and bolted, Tupo at his heels. They lost the Gua RD in the maze of alleys, meeting Nana at the ruined church. You got it, she hissed. A Betty handed her the GRE. Nana skimmed it, breath quickening. This is a confession. With the basement footage, we've got him. But the safe key's still under that orchid, a Betty said. Without it, we can't get the rest. Nana clenched her jaw. I'll steal it. No. A Betty shook his head. Too risky. And he looked at Tupo. He knows that house better than I do. They'd gamble one last time. Tupo would go alone. Meanwhile, at K.A. Russia's mansion. K.A. Russia smashed a teacup. That damn dog got into the basement. It knows. His lawyer straightened his tie. Relax. The cameras only caught a stray. We'll say the files were damaged. No judge will believe a dog can testify. Then how did it get in? K.A. Russia's voice cracked. It remembers. It remembers everything. The lawyer rolled his eyes. A dog's memory lasts 15 years. Ridiculous. K.A. Russia STA read out the window. You don't understand the way it looked at me. Like it was judging me. My father said, killed dogs come back for blood. The lawyer scoffed. Superstition. This is the modern world. But K.A. Russia was spiraling back to 15 years ago, when Tupo's sibling was buried alive. The puppy had howled all night at the study window. His father had said, dogs see spirits. It sees what's under the EARTH. That same night, his father dropped dead. Move the orchid to my bedroom. K.A. Russia suddenly ordered. Gua wrote it 24/7. The lawyer blinked. Over a plant, do it. K.A. Russia screamed. And find that beg AR. I want him erased. Next day, Matari. A Betty gathered more witnesses. A former Gua RD, anonymous Tupo kept biting the CA pet. 'Cause there was a hollow spot. We found a hidden cellar full of papers. Boss said forget it. A blind beg AR woman, I hear things. At night dogs crying, men burying things. Rain remembers what dirt tries to hide. A street vendor, before he died, K.A. Russia's dad bought spirit money. Burned it for wrong souls. Said unclean land brings rotten luck. Each story was another puzzle piece. Nana recorded them all. That night, back in their shack, Tupo paced, claws scraping the floor, growling Tawa RD the city. You want to go for the key? A Betty asked. Tupo nudged his hand. A Betty took a deep breath. Okay. Last run. He fitted Tupo's collar with a new camera and GPS. Nana would monitor from the van, ready to call for help. Remember, Betty stroked his head, grabbed the key and run. Nothing else. Tupo licked his palm and vanished into the dark. Ka Rush's bedroom. The orchid sat on the nightstand. Tuair med gua rds stood watch. At midnight, scratch at the window. A gua rd peered out. Tupo sta read back from the ledge. That mud again. One gua rd raised his gun. Should have shot it rs ago. Boss said don't hurt it, the other war Ned. Might be bad luck. They opened the window. Tupo leapt inside, heading straight for the orchid. What's it doing? Tupo dug at the pot's edge. Dirt flew. Then a glint of brass. The key, it's stealing the key. Tupo snatched it in his teeth and dove back out the window. A gunshot, blood sprayed from his hind leg. After it. Ka Rush's scream echoed. Tupo ran, GPS blipping wildly on Nana's screen. Betty cut through alleys, intercepting him in a side street. Tupo dropped the key, leg bleeding badly. Betty tore his shirt to bandage it, voice shaking. You did it, old friend, you did it. Nana cradled the key. This is it. Tomorrow, court. Betty looked toward the courthouse, then down at Tupo, trembling in his arms. The key was cold. But the dog's blood was rm 30 rs of lies about to be unlocked. The morning mist hadn't lifted yet. Betty's shack smelled of herbs and blood. Tupo lay on his side, breathing shallow, the old copper key still clenched in his jaws until Betty gently pried it loose. You lost too much blood. Betty's voice shook. 15 rs ago, he couldn't save Tupo's sibling. Today, he wouldn't lose him too. Nana dabbed iodine on Tupo's leg wound. He'll make it. Masai herbs work miracles. But today, we have to go to court. He can't, Betty said. Too dangerous. Ka Rush's men will recognize him. But the key needs his testimony, Nana insisted. No judge will believe a street kid saying the dog found it. But if we show them how Tupo dug it up from under that orchid, that's the final piece. Betty knew she was right. The law needed a story, something people could believe. And Tupo was the only bridge between memory and proof. He stroked Tupo's head. When this is over, we'll go back to the grasslands. No more hiding. Tupo opened his eyes and licked his hand, just like he had on that rainy night. High Court, 9 a.m. A crowd SWA met outside. Signs reading Justice for Masailand fluttered in the sun. Masai elders stood firm, backed by hundreds of displaced mayors. Ka Rush's lawyers looked smug in their tailored suits. Nana had organized the evidence, basement footage, the diary, the metal box files. Betty hid Tupo under a blanket in the van. Ready? Nana asked. Betty nodded, gripping the dirt-crusted key. The trial began. The plaintiffs presented their case. Y testified about the dog paw print on the deed copy, unchanged for 30 rs. The blind beg woman's recording played, I heard them burying things at night. The ex-security chief, anonymous, described the hidden cella or enforced signatures. The judge frowned. Too much circumstantial evidence. Where's the original deed? Nana stood. Destroyed, Your Honor. But we have copies, and Ka Rush's father's diary admitting fraud. DRIs can be faked, Ka Rush's lawyer sneered. And a dog's paw print ridiculous. The judge sighed. Plaintiff, without direct proof, this case may collapse. Nana glanced at the door. Time for Plan B. Betty took a deep breath and lifted the blanket. Tupo struggled up, bandaged leg trembling, but head high. Betty right him into the courtroom. Gasps erupted. Ka Rusha shot to his feet. This is insane. A stray dog in court. Your Honor, Betty said calmly, this isn't a stray. This is Tupo, proof of Ka Rush's crimes, witness to the basement secrets. He found this key. He held up the copper key. Silenced, I asked that Tupo demonstrate how he discovered it. The judge hesitated, then nodded. Proceed. But no disruptions. Betty set Tupo down. Limping, the old dog Sniff Tawa RD a potted orchid Nana had placed NEAR the witness stand identical to Ka Russia's. Tupo pawed at the soil, dug, and pulled out a replica key with his teeth. The courtroom froze. Ka Russia turned ghost white. No and no. How could it? Because he remembers, Betty said. The pain. His brother's blood. The secret under that flower. The judge leaned four-way road. Defense your rebuttal. Ka Russia's lawyer stammered. Train trick. Coincidence. Then open the safe, Nana challenged. If it's empty, we drop the case. Ka Russia's office. 30 minutes later the safe stood in his lavish office, a stone's throw from the courthouse. Betty inserted the key. Click. The door swung open. No cash. No jewels. Just a stack of yellowed papers, and on top, a photo of the Maasai chief at gunpoint, signing as Ka Russia's father smirked. Beneath it the original deed, with the true tribal seal. A bribery ledger, names, amounts. Dates. Ka Russia's father's will, wealth built on sin. If my son doesn't return the land, curse him. The key STARTS redemption. Ka Russia collapsed into his chair. You ruined me. No, Betty said, holding the deed. You did that. Your father knew the sin. He buried the key, left the diary. You chose to hide it, with more lies, more blood. He looked at Tupo. The old dog sta read at Ka Russia, unblinking. He didn't ruin you. He just let the buried truth breathe again. That night news exploded nationwide. East African Voice headline, a dog's testimony brings down a TYCN. Tupo's face became a symbol. Hashtags trended, hashtag dog remembers, hashtag we won't forget. Back in the shack, Betty laid Tupo down gently. The old dog's breathing was steady but weak. He curled against Betty's leg, as if finally resting. We won, Betty whispered. The land goes home. No more children in the streets. Tupo nuzzled his hand one last time. Then closed his eyes. Betty thought he'd fallen asleep. But then a soft, almost soundless whimper escaped Tupo's throat. Like the whimper he'd made in the rain, 15 years ago. Like the wind over Ngang Hills. Like the EARTH itself, sighing at last. The sun gla red off the courthouse windows, blinding. But Betty stood tall in the plaintiff's box, eyes locked on the defendant. Ka Russia sat slumped, hands shaking, no trace of his old arrogance left. The safe's evidence was already seized, deeds, ledgers, photos, each a hammer smashing his empire to pieces. The judge's gavel cracked. Given new evidence, this court reopens the Matari land case. Defendant Ka Russia, do you admit to fraud, coercion, and illegal seizure? Ka Russia's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, my client denies, I admit it. Ka Russia's voice was raw. Gasps filled the room. I admit, he repeated, TRS falling, 30 years ago, my father got the Maasai chief drunk. Forced his signature. My mother burned the original deed. I ordered that dog buried alive, just to silence it. He looked at Tupo, the old dog resting at Betty's feet. It came back. It remembered my father said dogs collect debts. I thought it was superstition, but it really came back. The judge was silent a long moment. Given the confession, we proceed to sentencing. Plaintiffs, your demands. A Maasai elder stepped forward. RD, white-haired but voice thunderous. Your Honor, we don't want money. We want the land returned. Our ancestors' bones belong on Ngang Hills. And one promise, this land is never for sale. The judge nodded. The court will rule accordingly. But first, he turned to Tupo. This dog played a key role. The court must determine if its actions qualify as evidence. Lawyers objected instantly. Your Honor. Animals can't testify. It's basic law. Laws are rewritten by men, Nana cut in, standing. But memory is written. By the EARTH. Tupo remembers who fed it bread, who killed its kin, who buried the truth. It's not an animal, it's living evidence. The judge studied the files, cella or footage, the potted plant key, the dog paw print, all tied to Tupo. The court rules, he said slowly, Tupo may remain outside as a symbolic witness. Its behavior may inform the proceedings. Then chaos. Tupo suddenly stood, EARS up, growling. Not at K.A. Russia but at his suit pocket. "Stop it," lawyers shouted as Tupou lunged, headbutting K.A. Russia's chest. Clink. A brass key fell out. "My safe key." K.A. Russia choked. "How did it?" Nana snatched it. "Compa, ring it to evidence." "A perfect match." "He's been hiding it, meaning more proof." The judge's face darkened. "Defendant, why conceal this?" K.A. Russia collapsed. I wanted to burn the last ledger but I couldn't. It kept being king in my dreams." Abedi lifted Tupou, whispering, "You don't have to burn anything now. The truth's out." Tupou licked his hand, then turned to K.A. Russia with a low whine, not anger, but pity. Like saying, "You could have let go sooner." K.A. Russia was led away in cuffs. Abedi ca ride Tupou outside, sunlight warming their skin. Crowds cheered. Reporters SWA med. Abedi. Tupou. Heroes. Say something. What's your message? Abedi shook his head. Tupou's eyes were half closed, breathing shallow, tail still weakly wagging. "He's tired," Abedi murmured. "He just wants to go home." That night, Nana visited with soup and medicine. "His wounds are re-healing. But he's old, needs rest." Abedi sta read it. "The stars, must I say, when people die, they become stars dogs too." Nana smiled. "Which one will Tupou be the brightest?" Abedi said. "Because he lit up 30 Rs of directness." He pulled out the Bolsier red wooden plaque. Old Sammy said if Tupou returned, truth would too. But now that it's back, what next? Nana said softly, "We remember. So it's never buried again." The court ruled, land returned to the Maasai. But K.A. Russia's lawyers appealed, citing procedural errors, buying time. Abedi knew the fight wasn't over. He took Tupou back to K.A. Russia's old Wari house. In the overgrown yard where they dug up the tin box, he clear read a patch of EARTH, stacking stones into a small grave. "Here," he told Tupou, "is your brother's home." He placed the puppy's bones inside, covered them, and set up a crude marker. Unknown dog. Born 1995. Died 1998. It remembered. Tupou circled the grave, sniffed the stone, then lay down beside it, standing one last watch. "Rest now," Abedi whispered. "Your brother lived long enough for both of you." K.A. Russia dreamed. He was young again, standing in the garden, a dead dog at his feet. Then its eyes snapped open. Tupou's eyes. Behind it, shadows formed, poison strays, hit-and-run victims, buried alive dogs. They howled in unison. A tidal wave of sound. He tried to run, but they surrounded him. Tupou stepped forward and licked his hand, just like it had when Abedi fed it bread. Then it turned away, leaving words on the wind. Memory doesn't die. Justice doesn't sleep. K.A. Russia woke drenched in sweat. Moonlight streamed through his cell. Bars. For the first time, he picked up a pen and wrote his confession. Tupou twitched in his sleep, paws moving like he was running. Abedi held one gently. "Almost there, old friend. We're almost there." Tupou's mouth quirked, just slightly. Almost like a smile. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, glinting off the brass key on the evidence table. The judge held it up, examining it. "This key matches the defendant's safe. Mr. K.A. Russia, do you have anything to say?" K.A. Russia didn't look up. "I confess. All of it is true." The judge's gavel struck. "Given the confession and overwhelming evidence, we proceed to sentencing." But first, he turned to Abedi. "Does the plaintiff have anything to add?" Abedi stood, cradling Tupou. The old dog's breathing was weaker than yesterday, his eyes half-lidded but still watching. "Your Honor, one last piece of evidence." He refully set Tupou down and pulled out a cloth-wrapped bundle. K.A. Russia's father's diary. Page 37 details how the Maasai chief was drugged to sign the deed. Page 52 admits bribing 3 officials. Page 89 says, "Dog blood blessed this land. Wealth over conscience. If caught, burn the proof." He flipped to the last page. This is his guilt. He knew it was wrong. And his son inherited both the money and the sin. The judge skimmed the diary, face grim. The court accepts this as evidence. Then K.A. Russia spoke, voice cracking. "Your Honor. I request the basement be opened. All files retrieved. Gasps filled the room. Why now, the judge asked. Ka Russia finally looked up, TRS in his eyes. Because I'm tired. For 30 years, I've lived in fear or dreaming of that dog, the buried deeds, my father's last words, dirty land, unstable wealth. I built mansions, bought cars. But at night, I still erdba king. He sta read at Tupo. It came back. Not for revenge. To end this. The judge ordered the basement unsealed. Ka Russia's mansion. 30 minutes later, police pried open the hidden door under the study carpet. The brass key turned with a click. Tupo suddenly struggled from a Betty's arms, limping to the stairs. He didn't descend, just pawed at the top step, whining low in his throat. A Betty noticed a loose brick. Beneath it, a plastic-sealed copy of the original deed, with faded writing, if my heir repents, return this. Ka Russia Sr., final words. He wanted to give it back, a Betty whispered. But his son hid it, Nana said. Tupo nosed the paper, then looked at a Betty clear-eyed, as if saying, now, it's home. The judge announced land returned to the Masai. Ka Russia sentenced to 15 years, fined 5 million shillings. Ka Russia only murmured, thank you. For what the judge asked. For letting me stop running. That dog chased me 30 years. Today, it can rest. A Betty ca ride Tupo back to their shack. The old dog's breaths grew slower. Nana touched his paw. He's fading. Too old. Too hurt. A Betty nodded, TRS falling. He did it. He remembered everything. Protected everyone. Now, he can sleep. He sang the Masai lullaby the elders taught him. Nkanya noto inkisha, the EARTH will remember you. Tupo's EARS twitched. His tail gave one last, tiny wag. Then his eyes closed, and for the first time in 30 years, the Baer King in Ka Russia's dreams stopped. A Betty buried Tupo under an acacia tree on Gong Hills. The Maar Kur read Tupo. Who remembered? Who brought us home? Sometimes, when the wind rustles the grass. The Masai say it's ca rise a familiar sound, not a growl. Not a howl. Just the quiet click of a door, finally unlocking. The morning Tupo died, rain fell softly over Ngong Hills. A Betty ca ride is still warm body up the ridge, where Masai elders waited in a circle. They didn't weep. They danced the Unoto, the ancient peace dance, voices rising in song for the Guardian who'd come home. He wasn't just a dog, the elder said. He was a spirit. Memory given flesh. He fulfilled the ancestors' task. They dug a grave under an acacia tree. A Betty laid Tupo down, painting his forehead with red ochre one last time. He placed the Bolsier red wooden plaque beside him. Old Sammy said if you returned, truth would too, a Betty whispered. Now truth is home. And so are you. Dirt covered him like a blanket. The rain fell rider, washing the stones clean. After, the elder Dekle read, from today, this tree is Tupo's tree. Under its shade, we speak no hate, only healing. The land return ceremony drew officials, judges, reporters. Ka Russia, in prison clothes, stood at the back, head bowed. The elder buried the deed under a cairn of stones. This land belongs to no one, he said. It belongs to ancestors, to cattle, to wind and rain. To those who remember. He turned to a Betty. And to you, child. You brought memory back. You brought justice. A Betty placed acacia flowers on the cairn. Then Ka Russia stepped four-way road. He pulled out a letter, his confession. Bury this too, he rasped. Let it rn others what greed costs. The elder hesitated, then nodded. The letter joined the deed under the stones. We don't forgive, the elder said. But we reconcile. Not by forgetting, by choosing not to pass hate four-way road. Ka Russia bowed, TRS falling. For the first time in 30 years, he stood straight. A Betty didn't stay on the plains. With Nana's help, he turned Ka Russia's old Wari house into Tupo's home, a shelter for street kids and injured dogs. Bulldozers clear read the rubble. Kids arrived with patched blankets and tin cans. A Betty taught them to plant vegetables, read, build tents. This place, he said, isn't where memory ends. It's where it starts. He planted an acacia sapling in the road. A plaque read, For Tupo. 1995 to 2025. He remembered. Every morning, kids fed the shelter's dogs, each named for what they'd survived: Hope, who dragged herself from under a truck. Courage, who chewed through chains to save a kitten. Memory, who bearked at the courthouse at dawn. Nana's reporting 1 hour RDS. She launched Street Voices, recording kids' stories. Their words, she said, are the city's real history. We won't bury it again. A girl whispered into a recorder, the police called my mom no name. But I know her name was Lily. A boy said, they shot my dad for stealing rice. He was just hungry. A Betty stored the tapes in a shipping container. Memory archive. Its walls bore one line, the forgotten Nari speaking. One night, a Betty dreamed of Tupo. The old dog stood on Ngung Hills, for white as snow, ice bright. He didn't speak, just nudged a Betty Tawa RD the city lights. A Betty looked. Every light was a dog's eye, watching in the dark. He woke to be a king. Outside, memory was yipping at the dawn. A Betty touched the sapling's leaves. You see, old friend, they're growing. The tree swayed, almost like a nod. 2x security Gua RDS arrived, men who'd once beaten a Betty and stolen dogs. We were wrong, one said. We want to make it right. A Betty let them stay. He showed them how to bandage wounds, feed strays. Redemption isn't kneeling, he said. It's standing up to do better. One Gua RD wept as he petted a three-legged dog. At sunrise, a Betty stood on the shelter's roof. Ngung Hills slept in the distance. The courthouse gleamed. Dogs bearked in the alleys. Kids stirred in their tents. Memory pawed his leg, wagging. A Betty lifted her, smiling. Tupo, he whispered, you hear that somewhere? A new bark answered. And another. 5 hours later, time flowed like the streams of Ngung Hills, quiet, steady, unstoppable. Tupo's home wasn't just tents anymore. Brick houses replaced tin shacks. A classroom had a real black boy road. The garden grew maize and beans. The kids weren't no names now, they had backpacks, dreams. I'll be a teacher. I want to be a doctor. One girl grinned, like Nana, tell the truth with a pen. The acacia sapling had grown tall. Under its shade, kids gathered every Friday at the story table, sharing their pasts. Remembering isn't for hate, a Betty told them. It's so history doesn't repeat. The dogs had aged too. Hope limped worse. Courage's fur turned white. Memory, the dawn. Kerr, was now the pack's leader. They never forgot their roots, still growling at strangers, just like Tupo once did. A Betty, now Uncle Betty, sat in courtrooms, speaking for the voiceless with Maasai proverbs and street SMARTS. Nana's Street Voices had gone national. Her book, Stories of the Forgotten, bore a Betty's foreword: we're not beg ars. Not thieves. Not no names. Weary memories keepers. As long as someone remembers, justice never sleeps. One morning a Betty watched kids pour milk for the dogs. The pack waited politely until Memory gave a soft woof, signaling mealtime. Then, the king. Not from here. From the city's edge. A construction site. Ka Russia's son was building future homes, a slum upgrade project. But the land deals same tricks as 30 years ago. Nana pedaled up, furious. They're stealing again. Legal papers, but the seller's elders with dementia, sold by fake Guardians. A Betty stroked Memory's head. Here that not progress. Forgetting. Memory lifted her muzzle, a long, echoing howl. From the site, other barks answered. A chorus. A wa running. Like an ancient alarm ringing over the city. The battle they raced to the site. Stray dogs had formed a living fence, SNA ruling it bulldozers. A foreman swung a stick. Scram, mutts. Memory charged, not to bite, but to block. The pack closed ranks behind her. A Betty stepped four-way road. Who owns this land? The company. Legally. Who sold it? Some old man. Nana flashed her recorder. We checked. Seller was a dementia patient. Guardian Ka Russia Jr. S. Buddy. Price 70% below market. Memory was digging now, nose to dirt. What she smell? Nana asked. Lies, Betty said. Same stench as 30 years back. The fallout by afternoon, hashtag New Dawn for Masailand trended nationwide. Viral clips showed Memory's Pakwa riding the land. Kids holding hands, chanting, land stays. Memory stays. Maasai elders singing ancestral hymns at the gates. Public outrage forced an investigation. The project froze. K.A. Russia Jr. apologized weekly, offering renegotiations. Betty refused. Land belongs to no one. Only to those who remember it. The developers backed off. The land became community-owned. Schools, clinics, paratives rising where towers were planned. Celebration day under the acacia tree, kids performed a play, The Bread in the Rain, the dog who bearked in court. The crowd of Maasai, slum dwellers, lawyers, even ex-security guardias wept. Betty held Memory on stage. The old dog's fur was white now, but her stance unbroken. 5 years ago, Topo died for this justice, he said. Today, we cheer not victory, but memory living on. He looked at the kids. You're the next generation. Remember, a good can be small, like moldy bread. Evil can be big, like a mansion. But memory it outlasts both. It's in a dog's bark. An elder's tale. Every heart that refuses to forget. He lifted Memory's paw to touch the tree. This tree will age, die. But its seeds they'll fly on the wind, grow new trees. Like Tupo. Gone, but his bark it lives in every dawn. That night the paw Rudy ended. Betty sat alone under the tree. Memory dozed at his feet. Beyond, the city glittered. Closer, on slum rooftops, one puppy yipped at the moon. Then another. And another. A symphony of barks, rising and falling. Never ending. Betty closed his eyes, smiling. Tupo, you hear that? New barks. New dawns. They say, memory never dies. Justice never rests. The wind rustled the leaves, almost like a whisper back.